Hey, welcome to this week's video. Recently, sadly, we heard about the passing of Mick Goodrick, who was actually one of my teachers, among many others. I was lucky enough when I was at Berklee, he came back from New England Conservatory, I guess you could say, to Berklee and was offering a masterclass that I was lucky enough to be able to take, because at the time, I think it was like 1998 or something, and I was an upperclassman then, so I was able to get those classes first. But I just wanted to share some of the things that I learned in that class with you, and kind of like a little bit maybe of a tribute to him, but more so just because it was just great information. One of the first things, and I'm gonna try to put this digitally in the description of the video, but this paper right here is Metro Sweeps, and I've used this with students for a long time. What it basically is, and you can look at it more closely in the with the link there. But what it basically is it lays out different metronome markings, 4 per day, that you should play through, and you could play anything, at those 4 different tempos. Because what you'll find, and what was like part of the lesson, is we all have tempos that we sort of gravitate towards, and they may be only a few metronome markings away from the tempo you're really going for. So what the idea is, in like a month or however, I think there's 28 different sets here. In a month roughly, you would go through all of these and you'd hit every metronome marking that there is, so that you would become better at playing all the tempos and be able to play them all, naturally, at your leisure, I guess you could say. But you would do this every month. You just keep going around in circles, and you could play anything, tunes, scales, chord progressions, whatever you want to play at all those different tempos during the course of the day. So for example, like the first one, it says 50, 58, 69, and 84, and I believe there was some sort of way that he did this to break this down, and I honestly can't remember exactly what that was, and it's sort of irrelevant. But as you go through it, you'll see that there are certain markings that like sort of double. So it sort of, you may hit some, more than once, obviously. But and then the other thing is, like, if you're playing on 2 and 4, which is probably the subject of a whole nother video, when you're working with a metronome, you will inevitably, like 50, if you're playing at 2 and 4, is 100, and so on and so forth, because it would be double the amount of beats. But as I'm just looking at this, so you would just, like in the morning you could play 50 beats a minute something, 58 beats a minute something. Maybe in the afternoon you go back to your guitar, you play something at 69 beats a minute and 84 beats a minute. So there's no secret. It's just something that I think is very interesting, and I use it with students all the time, because one of the big things that Mick Goodrick was, I guess, sort of known for, was the way he applied math to music and music theory. So he would look at, like, mathematically all of the possible combinations of whatever it was he was looking at. If there was, like, how many different ways can we put together these 4 notes? And he used to tell stories in class about him and John Abercrombie, who was another great jazz guitar player that we lost in the last several years. They were friends, and they went to Berklee together, and he would always say that, he's like, hey John, I figured out this, there's 798 possibilities of this particular thing, and he would always say, like, Abercrombie's like, yeah, they're just, we'll just play, and that's kind of the way I am. I mean, I appreciate the value of that, but to me, I want to learn everything, but I don't want to think about that when I'm playing. So there's value to both, but that's kind of what he was known for. So that's just one thing that I think is cool. And I guess he was working on a book, which I don't know if the first book came out by itself. I probably should have looked this up, but he wrote some books with Tim Miller as well, I believe, that sort of had something to do with this. But it's the big overarching principle really is voice leading. And at the time, I kind of was, and still am, I guess, heavily into Eric Johnson, and he played a lot of these kind of spread triads. So the examples that I'm gonna use are gonna use those, and just keep in mind that you can use any kind of triad to do this. So you could use like a closed position triad, which would be like these, Okay, but what we're doing for today's example is we're gonna do the spread triads, because I feel like I don't know, to me, they always had a more powerful sound when you hear them. They're just more open, and I think they sound bigger than they are, okay? So I tend to like that. But anyway, so these go through what he referred to as cycles. So cycle 2, cycle 3, cycle 4, and all that really is the distance from one chord to the next. So cycle 2 would just be like, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, just right up the scale. Cycle 3 would be like C major, E minor, G major, right? Because it's going up in thirds. Cycle 4 would be in fourths. Cycle 5 would be in fifths, and it's all in the key. So it's not going to always be like, a major third or a minor third or a perfect fourth, right? Because if we're playing in C major, we have a B, so that's going to cause issues going from F to B. That's not a perfect fourth. So anyway, just as a little example, and this is pretty straightforward. This is kind of like the departure point, I guess. But if I was playing these spread triads in cycle 2, it would be C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and then C major. So that made sense to me. That I kind of already knew, when I took the class. But what I never really considered was how to voice lead these from one chord to the next. When you're going more than a second, more than an interval of a second, there's not really much voice leading involved when you're going cycle 2, because all the notes in every chord are different. And voice leading, just without getting too much into it, is you're going to try to keep common notes and move the rest of the notes by step. So everything is close and it sounds smooth. That's the point of voice leading. But that would be too easy. So what we did was, if the chords are ascending with the cycle 2, we went in the opposite direction. So that would be like this. So for example, if we want to take this idea, and let's just say we're going to go cycle 4, okay? So the first chord, C major, the next one that would be in the cycle, up a fourth, is going to be F, and it happens to be F major in this key. So in order to get to that chord, the common tone there is C, and we're going to keep that, which is the root right there. But then in order to switch to F major, we're going to do this. Okay, and already it sounds, to me, it's like a choir of angels already between two chords. So the move is, okay, going from there, the next thing is going to be B, but it's going to be B diminished. And in B diminished, we have this F note right here, and these are the other two notes. Okay, so far we have, alright, from there we're going to go to E minor. Here's the common tone. Okay, E minor. Then we're going to go to A minor. All notes in the key up a fourth. Then we're going to go to D minor. So that's going to be this. Then we're going to go to G major. And then we're going to go to C major. So I just voice led the whole thing in cycle 4, starting from this voicing. Now, depending on what voicing you start with, it's going to change all of that. But if you get the concept of it, you don't really need to look at a sheet, although I do have the sheet that he handed out right here, which I will also try to put in the description or something that you guys can click on it and download it. But it's actually a packet, and it goes through a bunch of things, triads and so forth. But one of the things that he sort of laid on us, and you can see it right here, which it says MSRP, which for those of you that maybe aren't into music or aren't into Mick Goodrick per se, that would be like manufacturer's suggested retail price of, you know, items for sale. But he used to be kind of funny like that. He had a great sense of humor, so he came up with that, and it stands for melodic strand replicating procedure. So I was just trying to remember that, but yeah, that's kind of funny, melodic strand replicating procedure. But the idea is all you need is one little piece of the whole overall voice leading to that's like the key to the whole thing. And so like right here, cycle 2, MSRP is CAGF, and it's showing you the formula. So the from one chord to the next, the 5th is going to go down a second, the 3rd is going to go down a second, the 1st is going to go down a 3rd, and then it shows yet again the 3rd of one chord is going to go down to the 1st of the subsequent chord, and the 1st of the preceding chord is going to go down to the 5th, and it makes like a little bit of a circle. But somewhere in all of that, you're going to see this move from where C goes to A to G to F, and in one of the voices. Now, that actually never really helped me with this, so that's why I'm not going to go too much into it. What I think is a more applicable use of this, because I mean, if you really think about it, if you went through 12 keys and went through all the voicings and voice led all of them, it's a ton of material. It's like I mean, it's not endless, but it's like more than you're probably ever really gonna use, you know, in just everyday playing. So what I think of is, and especially like I said before, a good place to start is in the key of C. You can really take any voicing you come up with, which is I guess kind of what my takeaway from a lot of this was, and where I sort of went off and did my own thing, even though it's not really my own thing, because a lot of people do it. But you can take any voicing you want and sort of voice lead it through a scale. So in other words, like if I did something like, maybe I'm gonna move this E down to D, so it would be C, right? C, G, D, which is like kind of a nondescript chord, but I could then move that through, and the first thing I would do would be to go cycle 2. Okay, so if I just went right up the C major scale, and all you really have to do is just go, that way I think about this, as I should say, is you just take each note of the chord, go in cycle 2, you move it up, okay, to the next note that it would be in the C major scale. So if we have C, G, D, okay, if we move those up, C goes to D, G goes to A, and D goes to E. So really, the next shape is exactly the same. And to me it's kind of cool because you could use it, because there's no third, you can sort of use it in different scenarios. You can use it major, minor, it's sort of ambiguous. But, okay, the next thing up from there, and I'm not thinking what the chords are, really. I'm just thinking what's the next note up on that string, okay, as I go through these chords. So the next note up from here for all of this would be this. Okay, kind of an interesting sound, but that's sort of approximating, I guess, what would be some sort of either D minor-ish sound. It's got a natural 6 in it, so that's kind of cool. It's like a Dorian sound. So we have this, right? Now we're going to go up one more, so we're going to go to this, right? So I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'm just literally thinking about this now as I'm doing it, and it's a way sort of, I think, that you could use to discover something new or show yourself something that you can come up with on your own. You know, you could take any chord voicing, like here's one, right? So we have, again, all the notes are in C major, so E, B, C. If I'm going to move that up, the next chord up, if I just moved all the notes up in the key, is going to be this. Okay, sounds cool. And then I'm going to go up one on every string, and it's actually the same shape. Okay, this is the same shape as that. So this is kind of like C major, right? C minor, doesn't sound like, you know, the vanilla versions of these chords. It just sounds like out there, like cool, but it's just not really that complicated if you think about it. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm just. It's like the most simple thing in the world, but it starts to sound a little bit more interesting. So that leads me to something else that maybe I'll start doing, but maybe I'll start a series of like, this is what I learned at Berklee when I was there, because at the time when I went there, I took every single guitar lab that they offered, like literally every one. I think now they have different teachers and offer some different things, but when I went there, that is one of the things that I kind of set out to do. So I have a ton of material, and I'd like to bring it to you. So I hope that helps you and you learn something and you can make some music with that. Until next time.